Hey, Tony here. I wanted to get out today and share with you some trees, but I want to do it when it doesn't have the leaves on them. That makes it easier for identification, but you don't always have that luxury. Sometimes you need to identify that tree and you have to go by other things, such as the trunk, the bark, the shape of the tree, the size of the tree. These all tell you things. This is a shagbark hickory tree. You can see how the bark is coming off, shagging off of it. And this is a fairly immature one. It's not real big. They can get considerably bigger than this, but it's still producing a lot of fruit. I can see the shells and stuff down here, which is another way that you can get your clues. Usually this time of year, also early spring or late fall, winter, there's usually some other evidence like the leaves on the ground. But hickory, shagbark hickory produces a delicious nut that is said to have the highest amount of protein of all the nuts that grow in the Midwest. So totally edible, very good, and you can make kind of a maple syrup from this, but hickory syrup if you tap the trees in the wintertime. So that's another reason why you might want to be able to identify those trees. Over here, this is a pin oak. There's also another pin oak right there. And you can see this is a considerably much bigger tree. The leaves come to a very fine point on them, and that's why it's called pin oak. It's in the red oak family. So the acorns that it produces has more tannic acid, a little more bitter, takes more washing, but can be utilized as a food source. I kind of prefer the white oaks because you don't have to do so much to get the tannic acid out, which is bitter and it'll give you an upset stomach. So, but it can be an excellent food source. The bark on this gets kind of checkered. It doesn't have real deep furrows, and it'll go so far and then it'll kind of break like this. So it's kind of checked. But it can look similar to like white ash, things like that. So what I'm going to be doing is moving around to the trees. So I'll go find the next tree and we'll start from there. Hey, back at the trees. I moved to another location. Now we're in a campground. And I wanted to share this with you, even though it is a conifer, so it doesn't really lose its leaves because the needles are leaves. This is an eastern red cedar. You can identify this because the bark underneath is red, thus its name. Now, even though it's called eastern red cedar, Virginianus americanus, it's prolific throughout the Midwest. It's actually kind of invasive. This tree was one of the first trees that was taken by European settlers in North America from Virginia back to the Queen to show her the riches that were in America, because they believed that they could use this to build boats. But I also wanted to show you this because of the mushrooms that are growing on it. Generally speaking, mushrooms that are growing on a live tree, on the bark of a live tree, are not edible. They'll make you sick, especially those that are on a conifer. So be wary of that kind of a thing. It may look like oyster mushrooms, for example, but it's not. There are ways to tell that I'm not going to go into right now. But this tree, if it looks like a giant bonsai tree, that's because they do use this to make bonsai trees. They just don't get as big because they're constantly pruning and tying things. But I wanted to show you also, while we're here, another tree that has actually been imported because it's ornamental, Mediterranean cypress. Now, does that not look like a bonsai tree or what? Like the needles on these trees will have different shapes. Like the cedar there will have needles that are scaled. Sometimes on a pine tree, the needles are standing up. Sometimes they're kind of pointed down. And you can also tell by the types of cones that they produce. This being a cypress, it produces extremely small cones, almost like juniper berries, but not quite. But the trunks on these trees are just really, really cool, I think. And well, there it is. Kind of looks like a giant bonsai tree. If you can get the tops of it and everything, you can see what I'm talking about. All right, let's move and find some more. Hey, behind me here, we've got an American sycamore. It's a very majestic tree, I think it is anyway. It doesn't produce nuts or anything like that, but you can define it by the white top and the bark that will start to peel off, like this bit of bark here. It's almost like cardboard or paper. It grows very large and spreads out some, but not like the trees. Boy, you can hear my voice echo down here. It's beautiful. So I wanted to share that with you. The base is gray to brown, small checked, kind of like white ash, but then it turns into this white bark at the top. Sycamore, the name Sycamore comes from a combination of Latin words that when together say fig mulberry, which is kind of funny because it doesn't produce any fruit, not like that anyway. I don't know, I just think it's a majestic tree, cool tree, and I wanted to share some different types of trees with you. So we'll find one or two more, and I just wanted to share, the types of bark, how things look, so you can identify those a little bit better. All right, off to the next one. Hey, I wanted to share this tree behind me here. It's an oak tree, but I wanted to share it because it's a really good example of how oak trees spread out with big branches. Trees that are really well suited for tree houses. In this case, I think it's the ultimate Halloween tree, like a Charlie Brown Halloween kind of thing. Or Ichabod Crane, don't you think? But the trees are, the branches that come out are massive. They spread out more. A maple tends to be more like this, an oak like this. An oak gets taller as a rule than, say, a maple. So just want to share that. Off to the next one. Hey, I wanted to share one more with you to give you an idea. And I think it's kind of an important tree. This is a sugar maple. And at this time of year, there are some ways that you can tell. First of all, the trunk, maples tend to be smaller in diameter. with close together runs on the bark that aren't broken up, so they're not like checked. And the branches tend to be together like this, not out like this, but like this. And at this time of the year, buds are starting to come out, and these buds are edible and they're sweet tasting. And you can make a really nice fritter with these, with a little batter, and fry them up. And sugar maple, of course, is you tap these toward the end of the winter, just before spring comes, when it's still cold out, and get the syrup, the sap, boil it down into syrup, and it takes like 45 gallons to make 1 gallon, something like that, of syrup. So it takes a lot of boiling down, but man, it's delicious. And maple, I don't know if you've had it before, but maple candy is awesome. So I just wanted to share that. That gives you kind of an idea between some different trees, the things that you can look at to identify the tree. There's a lot of other trees out there that I haven't covered. You can go explore that yourself. And I also want to remind people that there's still a lot of videos that you may not have seen yet on Midwest Wild Edibles YouTube. There's also a YouTube channel. So check that out, subscribe, and like, so that you can get updates and stuff. Doesn't cost anything. So, sugar maple. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Have a great day.